What will happen when a group of astronauts in space, while experimenting on dark matter, opens a portal to the infinite multiverse in which some people accidentally went to another parallel universe? Now let's know how all this happened and how to fix it. So let's start today's new sci-fi mystery series. The story starts with a cold, snowy night where a woman named Jo was going somewhere with her daughter, hiding from everyone. Here Jo looks very nervous and even tells her daughter that she doesn't know how, but ever since she returned from space, everything around her has changed as she knew this world, not only the people here, her own family, everyone seemed unknown to her, as if they all had changed, but she would soon find out what was happening to her, and by saying this, Jo would use a device kept in her car. She starts looking for the one whom she had stolen and ran away from. Now from here they reach an old abandoned house, where Agni Jayla asks her daughter to sleep and goes out herself to check the same device when she heard her daughter screaming from the house, but when she went inside her daughter was sleeping comfortably. So go to sleep again. She comes out of the room and surprisingly this time she heard her own daughter's voice coming from the other direction. Now what is all this happening? The story is shown from the time of 5 weeks before this night when Jo was on duty with her fellow astronauts on the International Space Station where the Earth is located. Jo's daughter Alice and her husband Vegans meet her in video. While they were talking on the call, at that very moment a big noise came to their station. An experiment was also going on, which was being conducted by Mission Commander Pol, and from Earth, his head Henry was giving him instructions as to how important this experiment was for him. NASA scientists had created a new cell device which they could use to detect dark matter. But trying to find out by experimenting what is the secret of this dark matter in our universe, and today when Paul had started the CAL device for the experiment, there is a big explosion at his station as if some unknown object has come and collided with his station and their communication immediately. When NASA had broken away from Earth's bay, the entire station was destroyed. It was completely damaged due to the collision, so that one of the escape shuttles in the station was safe, but the other one was not working, while Commander Paul was also badly injured during this. Yes, Henry below sent a message above that no matter what happens, the crew members have to keep that cell device safe and secure because there is only one device that can solve the mysteries of dark matter, where Space Mizo now starts trying to repair their ship outside so that their station does not start falling down due to the gravity of the Earth and they all do not get killed there. Looking outside, it seemed as if there was something unknown from their ship. There has been a crash, and here Josie was watching when suddenly the body of a female astronaut starts floating in space passing over her, and here she also tries to catch him to know who it is, but she is not able to catch him. Here Jo was also telling the rest of her group members present inside the radio station how he saw a body in the orange suit. It was also strange because none of the members who had come to the station had gone missing and their spacesuits were white, so that person was the dead astronaut in the orange suit. Who is the communication here? After rejoining Johnny, she tells the same thing to everyone at the base, but for now, the AR there was also a problem from the front where their commander Pol had died from his wounds and the space station would not be able to survive much longer because the oxygen here was leaking due to that collision, so from the base they are told that the remaining crew. The members quickly returned to Earth with its pods, but here one more the problem was that there were 4 astronauts present up there and only 3 people could fit in one ace pod, while the other pod was already damaged, so Jo, being senior here, decided that the remaining 3 members would go to the remaining pod. Go down with it and she will try to repair the other port in the meantime, and later she will come down, where before the others go, she makes a drawing of the body in orange suit and sends them down, which she had seen in space, so that they can investigate more about it, where the government secretary also tells Iron Henry. That is, they will have to leave that device call in the space station itself because they had not detected any meteoroid that had collided with the space station, and this only meant that the experiment they were doing with the CAL device caused their space station to get damaged and Commander Pol was killed, but Henry was not ready for this. And he says that the experiment was done with the CAL device, it can change the world forever and they will have to bring it back because its data is not with them but is safe in the same device, whereas by now 3 crew members from the escape shuttle had landed safely below where Jo was alone in space. At the station, Ruck starts repairing her escape shuttle and it is revealed that now he has only 5 hours of oxygen left and in the meantime he will have to fix this shuttle, after which all the oxygen here will leak into space and now Henry will have to go before the communication breaks down again. He is also told to take the CAL device with him to the escape port, and now as Jo is taking her she suddenly finds herself in a gallery on the cupboard door of which was hanging a necklace of her daughter's, and from here again time is shown 5 weeks in the future. When the inhabitants of the Earth were following Alice's eagles coming from outside in a deserted place and she was bitten, another cupboard is seen in the distance and she is able to go inside it to find that there was the same cupboard and her daughter's necklace was hanging on the door, which was the same thing that she had seen 5 weeks ago at the space station. That is, at that time. She was able to see the future, but how will we know this further? Here who quickly opens the door, in which surprisingly it was his daughter Lizzie, who was now asking Jo where his mother had been for so many days. Now everything is quite confusing. Firstly, Johnny Alice was made to sleep downstairs in the other cabin, so where did this second Alice come from? Everything is going to be revealed gradually. Now Jo will quickly save his daughter from the cold to save her. She again comes to her previous cubby and starts bathing her in hot water, but now surprisingly, she sees Alice sleeping on her previous bed where she had made her sleep in the beginning. So who was the other Alice who was giving her sleep? Found in the cupboard, she runs back to the bathroom, but now no one is there. Now from here the story again goes to the time 5 weeks ago where Jo was busy repairing the escape shuttle, and now she had very little time left where she had to take away Paul's dead body and the CAL device. Below was to land on Earth, and below were also Henry and Iron, who were preparing for the shuttle's landing while she was busy upstairs, where the dead body of Pol was being kept in the SK pod. She starts hearing strange noises coming from the station as if there is someone else present at the station besides her. So she goes out and starts looking for him and finds Pol's body. The severed hand is visible, but as soon as Joe touches it he sees the Pol, which is now the Reese, also alive, but then again Joe was alone, and she starts to think that she might be having all these hallucinations due to the tension of recovering from the death of Pol, and while on Earth Henry is using all his resources to save that Cal. Wanted to bring the device back to Earth because the results of that experiment are still available on that device, where he is also asked to seek help from his twin brother Bird on the phone, but Henry refuses because he does not talk to his brother much. In fact, Henry's twin brother Bird looks exactly like him, and hence he mistakes the news Bird for Henry about the mission to rescue Joe also asks, for which Bird angrily scolds in car that he is not Henry but her brother. While up in space, by now Joe has repaired his escape shuttle at the last moment, and he also takes the Cal device. So now finally, after recording the last message for my family, I will take the shuttle from the station. She starts to launch because there were only a few seconds left and the oxygen on the space station was running out, when she realizes that her shuttle is not able to launch due to some error and someone has to go out to launch it manually. You will have to go to the station and give commands from the control room, which Joe cannot do now. It was certain to die. Surprisingly, someone's shadow is seen in the control room, who now launches the shuttle manually, and who was very happy and surprised that I don't know how but by a miracle, her shuttle was launched automatically. And now she will be saved by landing on Earth, from where Joe's shuttle is now safely on Earth. It lands where NASA's security team carefully removes Joe, while both Joe's daughter and husband were eagerly waiting for him, and here they embrace each other because everyone down below thought that maybe while Joe would be killed in the space above, Henry was also happy because Joe would be killed in space. The same Cal device was brought down safely from the station, but right now there is a big mystery, where in the control room at the space station, who manually launched the shuttle is a big secret which will be revealed later. So, down there, she was happy that she finally returned to her world, her family, but she still doesn't know it. It turns out that the world she has come to accept as her own is actually not hers. Henry quickly starts looking at the experiment results of the device conducted in the same space in which there was research on the dark matter spanning the universe, and from here the story starts again. It shifts to the night after a week, where Joe is very surprised. She asks her daughter Ellie that she had made her sit in the bathroom to take a bath, where Nanny Elise says that but she fell asleep as soon as she came in anyway. Ever since her mother came back from the space station, why has she changed so much now? After hearing this, Joe runs away to get the same Cal device and says that she needs another Alice. Now she has to find him, and she starts going in the same direction with this Alice. While in the past, Joe holds a press conference after returning safely from space and consoles his wife after Pol's death at the station. She gives, but now surprisingly Joe is told that Joe is Pol's wife. The name she was telling was completely wrong, but Joe definitely remembered that Pol had told him this name himself, so how could it be wrong? Then the same Henry was still trying to read the data of the Cal device. I was trying to do this, which was quite weird, where the investigation into the accident that happened at the space station has just started. They wonder how the explosion at the station happened so suddenly, and they read all the CCTV footage of the station, but when Joe tells them that she saw a dead female astronaut in a rented chute, no one believes her, because neither did they see the dead astronaut in any footage, and by the way also, they did not have the data of any such astronaut in the last 50 years in which any astronaut had gone missing in space or he had died and his body was not found. And since everyone was feeling that he was probably ill, they ask him to take medicines and rest for a few days so that his memory works well. Do it, and Joe goes home from here, but now here her husband was behaving very strangely, as if the relationship between them was not going well, but according to Joe there was nothing like that, while little Alice also seems very strange to Joe. And his behavior, his actions, everything seemed quite strange to Joe. Here again, the very next day Joe is told that she will have to change her statement and say that the explosion occurred due to some internal error and that there was no killed astronaut. But Joe is not ready for this, when after the meeting she was alone when her boss Frederick came near her and started touching her in a strange way that they might be having an affair, but Joe surprisingly denies it as to why Bala would cheat on her husband and have an affair with him, and from here she was able to understand that her husband Magnus does not talk to her well, but she still don't understand that he never had an affair with her. Then why all this happened, and she goes to her husband and asks him to love her very much, from where both of them become intimate, while Henry came to know a very shocking thing from the reading of the Cal device, that there is not only our universe but there are others like us.
There are also universes in which different versions of us live, that is, we know they are on a small part of the multiverse. Henry was very happy to know that finally the theory of multiverse is true, as well as he has got the proof, where Henry also goes to meet Joe and he finds Alice outside. So now while talking to him, Shro starts explaining to him about the thought experiment of Dungar Cat and how scientists have still not been able to fully understand physics, whereas Albert Einstein had already explained how the same substance can exist in two different places, and that too in different forms, i.e. parallel universes. Henry here, the example of Alice's toy is also given to show how her toy is like this. Of course, it is white in the universe, but in another parallel universe, the same toy that Alice has can also be black, and between these two universes, this toy will be present in both the colors unless someone observes it, which is known as the observers. Effect is called Now Henry from here meets Joe and thanks him. Joe also says that he has done Cal a great favor by bringing the device back safely, whereas the next day when Joe is with her fellow crew members, she learns a very surprising thing that the female astronaut whom she had killed was actually, the person seen in space was none other than Irons, who is currently the head of NASA. And that photo was from 1967 when Irons was an astronaut, but she is still alive. So how did Joe see her dead, and that too in her younger form when she was an astronaut? Now everything is going to get complicated for Joe here. He was there again when Joe goes with her friends to offer flowers to Commander Pole's grave. Pole appears alive and Joe gets scared, where even she herself started feeling that she is really getting trapped in the illusion, and that is why now she goes to the commission and accepts all their words and whatever she says. Young Irons' dead body was seen in space and she testifies that it was a hallucination where Joe was feeling ultimately she will be able to relax and live well with her family, but when she goes with them to her old house in Germany, things again seem different to her, like now they have a blue car whereas Joe is in good shape. I remembered that he had a red car nearby, and not only this, he spent the next few days here. So Joe learns that her husband had been thinking of divorcing her for some time, because he had found out about Joe's affair with her boss Frederick. But as soon as she returned from space, Joe changed and postponed the decision to divorce her. Apart from this, there is also a piano in Joe's room, but Joe never had any interest in piano. The same nanny Alice, who could not understand the Swedish language, whereas Joe remembered very well that both the mother and daughter had learned to speak Swedish together. Now he did not know why all this was happening with Joe, but Henry had got a clue about this, and he got the information from his cell device from another person. He starts discussing how he thinks that when Pole experimented with the Cal device in space, he accidentally opened a portal to another parallel universe, and everything that is happening to Joe from here is now clear. It seems that he is in another parallel universe at the time of the same experiment. She shifted, and the Earth on which she had just landed was not actually hers, because the Joe here had many affairs, but this Joe had nothing like this in his universe, and that is why Joe in this universe was not her husband. And everything seemed quite different from the daughter, although neither Joe nor Henry knew it yet. Now Joe's boss Frederick comes to meet her again and asks why she has changed so much after coming back from the space mission, and that they were going to hang out together. But now Joe tells her that she says that she doesn't know why Frederick is saying all this, but she is happy with her husband. And when Joe goes home, he receives a parcel in which some people at an observatory in Denmark had sent 2 tape records for Joe, which were recorded on their radio. Now one tape is Joe's. One time was when she was repairing the escape shuttle at the Space Center, and the other in 1967. It was about some space mission in which there was a female astronaut, so Joe feels that she should go there and find out about it, and she also tells her husband Magnus about it. But by now Magnus had started to feel that she has become mentally ill, and that is why she changed so much after coming from space. So now NASA Joe calls Joe and starts asking for medical treatment, but Joe did not want this. And in the midst of this argument Magnus gets pushed by her and he becomes unconscious, and from here Joe decides that whatever strange happens with him, she is going to find out about him. So she leaves the unconscious Magnus there with her daughter Alice. She starts going and stops at the lab on the way. Now she had also stolen the same Cal device because she was sure that all this was happening to her because of the C device which she had experimented with in the space above it. Now he also started feeling that this is not his universe, but since he belongs to this universe, if not, then what would have happened in his universe? That day in the space station of his universe, the incident that happened here was completely different from here. Now what is that? Full of big twists. Know the further story in the second part of this tremendous series. Watch this channel now. Subscribe for upcoming parts of this series and more such series. Thank you for